When we're talking about client dependence, we need to understand that client dependence can be initiated by the client and nurtured by the clinician. Let me give you an example. An example would be keeping a client on your caseload longer than they need to be. Now, it's connected with transference and countertransference, as we're going to talk about shortly. But client dependence, creating an environment of client dependence is not healthy. It doesn't allow the individual to become independent. It doesn't allow the individual to become empowered in their recovery. And it appears that it is more for the interest of the clinician to create an environment that the client becomes dependent on the clinician. So let's take a look at what the difference is between transference and countertransference. When we're talking about transference, we're talking about emotions and feelings that are projected from the client unto the clinician. Now, this could be positive and negative. Let me give you an example. Transference from the client could be that they look at the clinician in a positive manner as somebody who they revered or respect highly, such as a grandparent, grandmother, perhaps a coach or a minister or a person who is a clergy, somebody who they highly revere or respect and who has made a positive impact on their life. Now that transference can happen within seconds. You know, it's an emotion, it's a feeling that they can identify that you remind them of somebody in a positive manner. In contrast, transference can also be in a negative fashion, whereas they look at the clinician and that clinician reminds them of somebody who had a negative impact or negative influence on their life. And it is shown through their mannerisms, through their body language. There's perhaps some resistance. So transference is emotions and feelings that come from the client unto the clinician. Now, when we're talking about countertransference, it's just the opposite. It is emotions or feelings that are projected from the clinician unto the client. Now let's talk about countertransference being both positive and negative. As I said earlier with the transference, countertransference can be that the clinician is looking at the client as somebody as well in a positive manner who may have a positive, they may have a positive or had a positive relationship with. It could be a child, could be somebody who had a positive impact on them, could be a sibling, somebody where they start to experience some positive feelings. And so that needs to be checked, or that needs to be recognized and made aware immediately. Because what can happen is, because of that positive nature or that positive impact, they look at the clinician, and what could end up happening in some cases is that there could be some flexibility that goes a little bit into favoritism. Now, negative countertransference is just like we said with the transference with the clients unto the counselor. Countertransference in a negative fashion could be where the clinician looks at the client or starts to experience feelings in a negative manner, where they start to project perhaps inflexibility. They start to display some harsh attitudes, maybe rigidity, perhaps a lack of empathy on the clinician's part, due to the fact that the countertransference that the clinician is experiencing is in a negative manner. Now again, with transference and countertransference, it's okay to experience both, but it's what you do with the transference and countertransference that matters. The key is being made aware that both are occurring.